Have you ever sat quietly with someone in their final days and just sensed that something was changing? Not because of what a doctor said, not because of machines or test results, but because the energy in the room felt different. The air was still. Their presence felt softer. Hospice nurses understand this. They've spent years at the bedside, witnessing the final moments of life not through textbooks, but through presence. And in doing so, they've recognized 5 signs that appear again and again as a person nears the end of life. These are not medical theories. They are patterns observed by those who sit with the dying, hold their hands, and watch the world slow down with them. Today, my modern and unstoppable seniors, we're going to explore those 5 signs. Not to fear them, but to understand them. Because when we understand what the end of life can look like, we meet it with more calm, more compassion, and more courage. Whether you've already walked this path with a parent, spouse, or friend, or you're thinking about your own journey someday, this conversation matters. Before we begin, drop the first letter of your name in the comments below and add a heart emoji. It's a simple way to bless your wellness journey and let us know you're here, walking this path with us in the Wellness for Modern Seniors community. And if you're still not subscribed, subscribe now and click the bell so you don't miss the next care tip designed especially for you. If this kind of wellness discussion resonates with you, go ahead and tap that like button. It blesses your journey and helps this message reach more modern and unstoppable seniors who need it just like you. Now, let's begin with the first sign. Sign 1. Turning inward. The quiet withdrawal. One of the earliest signs hospice nurses often notice is a gentle withdrawal from the world. This doesn't happen all at once. It begins with subtle changes. The person may talk less. They may keep their eyes closed longer. Phone calls may go unanswered. Even the TV or music they once enjoyed becomes background noise they no longer want. This shift isn't caused by sadness or despair. In fact, many nurses describe it as peaceful and intentional. It's as if the person is slowly shifting their attention away from the outside world and focusing inward. The energy that once flowed out toward people and conversations begins to turn inward, conserving itself for the final steps ahead. Evelyn was 86, a former schoolteacher who loved books and batch. She had been lively, opinionated, and sharp. But in her last few days, she stopped reading. She didn't want music playing. When her grandson offered to play her favorite piece on the piano, she gently shook her head and said, "Not today. I'm listening to something quieter now." Her family felt confused, even hurt. Why was she pulling away? Why didn't she want the things that used to bring her joy? But the hospice nurse smiled gently and said, "She's not pulling away from you. She's turning towards something else." This stage is often misunderstood as giving up. But in truth, it's more like a quiet preparation. Think of it not as a door slamming shut, but as one slowly swinging closed. From a psychological perspective, this phase is a kind of detachment. Not out of coldness, but because the person's focus is shifting. Their body and mind are preparing. They are settling into a more internal space, one that we can't quite follow. What matters most in this time is not how much we talk, but how much we listen. Not how much we do, but how deeply we're willing to simply be there. Sometimes, sitting in silence, holding a hand, and offering nothing but your calm presence is the greatest gift you can give. The second sign that hospice nurses observe almost universally is a change in the way a person breathes. To someone seeing it for the first time, it can feel sudden, even alarming. But to those who have walked with people in their final days, this shift is both natural and expected. The breathing often becomes irregular. Sometimes it's shallow. Sometimes there are long pauses between breaths. Other times it might sound deep and heavy, then quiet for several seconds, almost as if the person has stopped breathing altogether. This pattern is known as Cheyne-Stokes breathing. It's the body's natural way of slowing down, not because it's in distress, but because it no longer needs to keep pace with the demands of the outside world. To loved ones sitting at the bedside, this rhythm can feel unsettling. But hospice nurses gently remind us, this isn't something to fear. It's not a sign of suffering. It's the body releasing control, letting go with wisdom and grace. Dorothy was 79, a choir singer for most of her life. Even in her final week, when she could no longer speak, she would hum softly, like a memory floating through the air. Her daughter noticed that Dorothy's breathing changed. It came like a pattern of waves, 2 deep breaths, a long pause, then a single soft exhale, like the last note of a lullaby. Her daughter leaned in close, matched her own breath to her mother's, and felt something unexpected: peace. That peace didn't come from understanding the science. It came from letting go of the fear and simply being present with what was happening. From a medical perspective, these changes happen because the brain begins sending fewer signals to the lungs. The systems that once operated on constant rhythm now begin to slow. The body is not panicking. It's simplifying. Some believe this shift draws attention inward, helping the person enter a more reflective, peaceful state. The breath becomes not just a physical process, but a spiritual one, a rhythm that guides them towards stillness. In many traditions, breath is sacred. It is the first sign of life when we're born, and the final act when we leave this world. Noticing its changes can be a reminder of just how sacred that transition is. There was an older gentleman named Samuel who once said, "You don't notice how beautiful breathing is until you hear it change." In his final hours, his family gathered around him. His breathing shifted gently, like waves pulling back from the shore. And in that quiet rhythm, they found a strange kind of comfort. Not every goodbye is spoken with words. Some are spoken in silence, in breath, in presence. The third sign that hospice nurses witness again and again is something deeper than physical withdrawal. It's a gentle turning away from the world itself. It is not just about being tired or uninterested. It's not that the person no longer loves their family or no longer values the life they lived. It's something quieter, more internal. It's as if their focus has shifted from everything happening outside of them to something unfolding within. The television stays off. They no longer ask what day it is. Familiar hobbies, conversations, even long-loved routines fade into the background. You might find them gazing out a window for long stretches. Their eyes might seem distant, as though they're looking beyond the room, beyond even your presence. This isn't a loss of awareness. In many cases, it's an expansion of it. James was 84, a retired train engineer who used to tell vivid stories about his routes across the country. He had names for every station, funny nicknames for passengers, and could describe the sound of every whistle. In his final days, he didn't want to talk much anymore. He spent hours in silence. His granddaughter brought him a small model train, hoping it would bring back his smile. He held it gently in his hand, nodded once, and whispered, "That chapter's closed now." He wasn't sad. He wasn't lost. He had simply arrived at a point of acceptance. Hospice nurses often speak about this phase with reverence. It's the spiritual point of turning not away from life, but towards something beyond it. From a psychological perspective, this withdrawal allows the person to conserve energy and protect their inner peace. But for many, it's more than that. It's a moment of surrender, a letting go of roles, responsibilities, and the stories that once defined them. Families sometimes struggle with this part. They want to keep the person talking, laughing, watching their favorite show, or eating their favorite meal. And that instinct comes from love. But hospice nurses gently remind us that letting go can also be an act of love. holding a hand in silence, sitting beside them without needing anything in return, letting them lead the pace. These are quiet acts of grace. They show respect for the person's journey and trust in their inner wisdom. During this time, you may find that your presence becomes more powerful than your words. You don't need to fill the silence. You just need to hold space. That stillness isn't empty. It's full of meaning. It's where the soul begins to prepare. And in that preparation, there is softness, peace, and often a gentle kind of beauty. If you're still watching and these reflections are resonating with you, leave a comment with the number 3. It lets us know you're here, honoring this conversation with us in the Wellness for Modern Seniors community. Among the most surprising signs hospice nurses talk about is something they call the rally, a sudden, unexpected burst of energy that can appear in the final day or two of life. For families, this moment can feel like a miracle. A person who has been unresponsive or barely speaking might suddenly sit up in bed, ask for their favorite meal, tell a joke, or start talking with unusual clarity. Someone who hasn't had the strength to move might reach out and hold your hand with surprising grip. They may smile, laugh, share memories, or ask to see someone they haven't spoken to in years. It feels like a breakthrough, a turning point, a comeback. But hospice nurses, with their quiet wisdom, know this is something different. It's not recovery. It's not a sign that the body is healing. It's a final wave of energy, the body's last gift before letting go. George was 79, a farmer who had spent most of his life outdoors. He had been mostly silent for 3 days. His son had already said his goodbyes. But one morning, George opened his eyes, asked for black coffee, and said, "Don't forget the apple trees in the south field. They need more sun." Then he chuckled softly and added, "And don't plant those tomatoes too close together this time." That evening, he passed away in his sleep. The rally is often short. It might last a few minutes, maybe a few hours. But in that time, something sacred happens. The person becomes lucid. They say what needs to be said. They offer love, forgiveness, advice, or gratitude. They may bring up old memories or ask for someone they haven't seen in years. And often, they do this not because they're getting better, but because they're preparing to say goodbye. From a biological standpoint, some experts believe this energy surge is connected to chemical changes in the brain. It's the body releasing its last stores of energy. But emotionally and spiritually, it feels like something more. It feels like a window opening, just briefly, to allow the person to touch the world one last time before they go. If you ever witness this in someone you love, let your heart stay grounded. Welcome it, embrace it, but try not to get swept away and hope that they're recovering. Instead, recognize it as a precious gift, a moment to be present, to say what matters, to hear what needs to be heard, and to walk with them just a little further before the path ends. No words are wasted in these moments. No gesture is too small. Even silence can feel like love. The final sign that hospice nurses speak of with quiet reverence is the change in breathing that often comes just before death. By this point, the body has let go of many things: hunger, conversation, movement. And now, even the breath begins to loosen its rhythm. You may notice long pauses between breaths, a slow, shallow inhale, followed by silence. Sometimes there's a sudden deep breath, followed by another pause. This pattern is often part of what's called Cheyne-Stokes breathing, a natural and common rhythm at the end of life. To someone who's never witnessed it, it can feel frightening. It may sound like the person is gasping or struggling, but hospice nurses gently reassure families. This is not suffering. This is not pain. In fact, many people are no longer fully aware. Their body is in its final, quiet phase. The breath is simply doing what the heart and mind have already begun releasing. Sometimes, there's another sound that families find startling: the death rattle. It's a soft gurgling, like water caught in the throat. It happens because the person can no longer clear saliva or mucus. But they are not choking. They are not aware of it. Nurses may reposition them or use medicine to ease the sound. But the goal at this stage isn't to stop nature. It's to make the person as comfortable as possible and allow the body to move with its own rhythm. Carol was 82 when her daughter sat beside her for 2 full days. She hadn't spoken, hadn't moved. Then one evening, her breathing shifted. It slowed, paused, began again. Each breath was soft, like waves gently touching the shore. Her daughter held her hand, whispered that she was loved, and told her she could rest. Carol passed not with a sudden gasp, but with a breath so quiet it felt like the room exhaled with her. Breathing changes are often the final visible sign before someone dies. And while they may signal the end, they can also be a call to lean in, not pull away. This is the moment to hold hands, to whisper a love, to bring stillness, not panic, to offer calm, not confusion. Your presence in those final breaths is more comforting than any medication, any machine, or any word. Final reflections if you've made it to this point. In the video, thank you. This was not an easy topic, but it is a necessary one, because at some point in life, all of us, every modern and unstoppable senior, will walk this path with someone we love. And one day, others will walk it with us. Knowing what to expect does not erase sorrow, but it can bring peace. It allows us to meet death not with fear, but with understanding. Hospice nurses often say that death is a mirror of birth. It has its signs, it has its rhythm, and it asks us to show up with gentleness, love, and grace. As a newborn takes their first breath, the dying take their final one. And in both moments, presence is the greatest gift anyone can offer. So whether you are preparing, reflecting, or simply learning, I hope this video gave you clarity, peace, and courage. If something you heard today touched your heart, give it a like. It blesses this community and helps spread these messages of compassion to more people who need them. If you haven't already, subscribe and click the bell so you never miss a care tip tailored just for you. And before you go, leave a comment below and share one thing you learned from today's message, or one way you plan to bring more presence and peace into your life or someone else's. We read every comment, and your words matter to us. Thank you for walking this path with us today, here in the Wellness for Modern Seniors family. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, stay gentle, stay wise, and stay unstoppable.